From deep in the heart of Central Texas, it's the Best of the Outdoors podcast. Brought to you by Texas Fish and Game Magazine, the voice of the Texas outdoor nation. I'm your humble host, Dustin Von Warnke, the hostess with the mostest, back with another podcast. So excited that you guys have taken the time to download this show, stream it online, or however you were listening. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you also for telling a friend. Thank you also for giving us a 5-star review if you like what you hear on iTunes or any other platform you're listening on. And feel free to reach out to me, man. You can find me at Texas Fish and Game's website, which is fishgame.com. I'm the associate publisher here and also your podcast host for this show. Really excited about being back with you guys. Every 2 weeks we do these shows and just have a great opportunity to share with you my message of hope and inspiration in the outdoor lifestyle and all that encompasses hunting and fishing and camping and hiking and all the great outdoor things that we do. I really am excited about this show. I've wanted to do a show like this for quite a while around eating the stuff that we catch and kill out there, eating the things that we harvest in the outdoors. And one of the reasons why I am a hunter and a fisherman is simply so I can eat wild, organic, non-GMO, non-hormone food and protein, and you know it's one of those things, like I'll say later in the show, as weird as this sounds, I kind of have some of the same viewpoints about slaughterhouses and you know the way that animals are kept in cages and you know small areas before they're harvested in a slaughterhouse. For me, you know, as vegetarians do, I don't really like that environment for my meat. I don't really like, you know, my animals being stressed out and stuff before they're killed and that kind of stuff. So, in a lot of ways, I agree with the reasons why a lot of people don't eat meat, for the same reasons why I eat organic and wild meat as much as I can. Now, we still eat chicken in my house, but can't really hunt those for sport. But you know, for the most part, most of our red meat, aside from a New York strip that my wife will buy for the value of cow that we have in our house every once in a while, we usually buy prime New York strip and that kind of stuff, you know, higher end stuff. But you know, we eat deer, we eat hog, wild hogs, we eat fish, redfish on a half shell, we eat fried fish, we eat baked fish, tilapia. All those kind of things that I can go out there and bow fish for, or bow hunt for, or gun hunt for, or catch on rod and reel. And that's just kind of part of the outdoor lifestyle. So I've wanted to, and this kind of just popped in my head this last week, after I released our last show that was a fishing show. I kind of said, why don't we do a hunting show, but base it around, you know, like they have on YouTube, the catch, clean, and cook. You know, the whole idea of catching and cleaning and cooking your wild game and doing that kind of thing. And so really it just kind of all dawned on me that it would be a smart thing to bring up a few cookbooks and stuff that I read, to bring a guest on that talks a lot on his podcast about hunting and fishing and cooking and cleaning and preparing meals out of the fish and game that he catches. And that's Jeremy Beaston from the Cast Blast Grill Chill podcast. And you know, Jeremy and I go way back. We've met each other in person before a couple of times now. And he's really involved with backcountry hunters and anglers, and really great guy about conservation, about supporting you know the future of this sport, and really somebody that I kind of look up to in a lot of ways as a colleague in this business of media and stuff that we create. Just that he's got the heart of a right, you know, the right heart of an outdoorsman is what I'm trying to say. And he listens to our podcast just about every episode, and I really thank him for that, and it's great to have him on. So Jeremy, if you're listening, I know you listen to all these shows, so thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for being on today. So I'll do that real quick. I've got a couple of things to knock out, some housekeeping in order to take care of. If you're not done so already, please subscribe to the podcast. It does not cost you anything. It is free. You get a new show every 2 weeks. That's twice a month. We have a new show. Last month I did 3 shows because we had a lot of sponsors to get through, but this month I'm just rocking it, and we don't have a ton of podcast sponsors, and I'm just kind of back to 2. But I wanted to bring up a couple of events and a couple of collaboration things that are going on. First of all, if you want to meet Jeremy at these backcountry hunters and anglers events, there's 2 of them that are, I don't know if he's going to be at either one of them, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be at one of them. The one that he has, the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers are having May 25th, and then they're having another one June 22nd, and then one on June 22nd is in Houston, the one on May 25th is in San Antonio, and also June 22nd is the Texas Airgun Show. I have all the information for all this stuff in the show notes or the post or wherever you're hearing this, the description on YouTube and Facebook, the post on fishgame.com, or the podcast show notes if you're listening on your mobile device or a podcast player. All that stuff is on there. The links to everything's on there. And Texas Airgun Show, the 22nd and 23rd. And then Backcountry Hunters and Anglers with a full draw film tour event that they are doing. Really cool stuff that they're up to with some of the stuff that they're doing. So check those things out. Also, you can check out Jeremy at on Facebook. I've got the links for him and Cast Blast Grill Chills podcast and Facebook group. And also, lest we forget some cookbooks that we're talking about, those will be in the show notes as well. You can check those out. But we're doing a collaboration, and this is just getting off the ground, so be patient with it. I've got the link in the show notes with Frio Coolers, all right? And Frio is one of my favorite companies for ice chests and drinkware. I've got a Frio cup right here on my desk that I'm rattling my ice in. The microphone, I don't know if you can hear that, but it's got a leather wrap from Double J Saddlery of a redfish tail badge, if you want to call it, and it's got like this alligator wrap on it. It's really cool. But they make these tumblers called the 24/7s. They make hard side, soft side coolers. They make vintage coolers. They make a wide variety of stuff. My whole garage is full of Frio stuff, so I love their stuff. But they're doing a collaboration with us here at Texas Fish and Game, and you can check out the link in the show notes. It's a little bit long. I'm going to try to get us a shorter domain that'll be a little bit easier for you to remember and go to. But right now, the link for that is in the show notes. You can check that out through Frio Ice Chest, and really some cool products. I'm checking this out right now. I'll pull it up here. There's all kinds of different things that you can buy. You've got shirts, you've got stainless steel mugs, you've got the stainless steel Frio 24/7 cups, the stainless steel tumblers with the wraps. You've got the cups, the tumblers with the powder coat. And then you've got the large cups, 24/7 is the smaller cup, 24 ounces, and then the 30-ounce cup with the Texas Fish and Game theme and logo. You've got the vintage coolers with the logo, soft side coolers with the logo, hard side coolers with the logo, and special artwork with the Texas flag. Really cool stuff. So kind of a selection of their products available for sale through our website that we have specially through them, and that's texas-fish-game.frioicechest.com. Don't worry about remembering all that. It's in the show notes. You can check it out. But we just launched this. This is one of the first forays in launching this I'm doing on this podcast. I'll probably mention it just about every show. Go get you some Texas Fish and Game Frio stuff, man. Awesome collaboration. I've wanted to do something like this for a while with these guys, and it's finally getting off the ground. And I'm really, really excited about having our own branded Frio stuff from them. And certainly there are other cooler companies, certainly there are other tumbler companies and stuff like that. That's just a collaboration we're doing with our brand on their products. And it's just kind of something we're doing to help, spread the Outdoor Nation word out there about Texas Fish and Game and what we're all about. And I think that'll be really cool. So anyway, I've been talking a lot. Lots of fun on this podcast, guys. We're just looking to basically get things to you that are accessible. And that's what the show's always been about. This is what the show will always be about. It's not about catching the biggest fish. It's not about shooting the biggest buck or the biggest elk or the biggest whatever. It's about the outdoor lifestyle. It's about the whole part that encompasses everything that we do, the spiritual journey that we are on as outdoorsmen, that communion with God, that communion with nature, that communion with the spiritual aspect of our lives. So important to get recharged and reinvigorated, if that's a good word, in the outdoors, and that's something I'm really, really passionate about. If you guys listen to the show at any time, and like I say, if you haven't done so, tell a friend and subscribe to our show. Give us a 5-star rating on YouTube or Facebook or any place like that you like listening to the podcast. That really means a lot to me. I love connecting with every single one of you guys. Just like the Texas Airgun Show, I'm going to probably plan to be on that. I don't know how I'm going to do that and the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, but I'll probably be at the Texas Airgun Show in June, and I'd love to meet you if you just come up and see me. I'll probably be broadcasting some stuff from that show. I hope to be, since I didn't do NRA this year, and we'll see about that. It's up in Weatherford area, up in the Arlington Sportsman's Club, which is going to be a really cool show. So anyway, enough about all that. Let's get into our podcast. Here's my interview with Jeremy Beaston. Awesome guy. Here we go. Join me on the phone, Mr. Jeremy Beaston from the Cast Blast Grill Chill podcast and so many other things you do in the outdoors. How you doing today, Jeremy?
I'm doing spectacular today. It's a beautiful sunny afternoon, and the weather has been, aside from all the rain, been relatively nice for a mid-May kind of time frame. It's typically already 1,000,000 degrees out, and I don't think we've broken 90, but a couple of times, and both times I did that, I was out on a river fishing and swimming with my kids. So I'll take that kind of weather on those kind of days.
It's been weird this time of year. I mean, it's been raining a lot more than it should be, and it's colder, and then it's hotter, and then it's hotter, and then it's colder. It's 59 when you wake up, and it's like 89 when you go to sleep. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. But that's Texas spring
That's
for
Texas
you.
spring for
Just
you.
Stick around if you don't like the weather for about 15, 20
Just
minutes.
wait.
It's going to change.
That's what they always say about Texas weather. And the people that listen to the show that are way outside of Texas, that are in other countries and stuff, don't really understand how volatile it can be, or just, changeable it can be from day to day, hour to hour. I mean, it's just crazy. But there's been flooding, there's been all kinds of stuff. And I'm recording this show around lunchtime, and we're talking about food. So I just thought that would be. I ate a little something before I got on this podcast, but I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, that's probably going to be probably by the end of this, I'm going to have to either reach into my bag of jerky over here or actually stop and get something to eat. I've been trying to do intermittent fasting.
Right.
For a guy who's a little round, it's not always easy to do.
I understand. I'm a little round with you, so but that's cool. So I was thinking one of the things, you and Trevor are into duck hunting. And one of the things I need to cover more on this show is duck hunting for the people that are really hardcore and passionate about that. But the thing with all that is that what do you do with the duck, and is duck meat good? And some people like it and some people don't. And I mean, do you bacon wrap it? And I'm looking at an article on Texas Fish and Game from Texas Tasted, which is at the back of our magazine, for teal tenderloin wraps. And
yeah.
I'm just oh my gosh, this looks so good.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing about, wild game in general here in Texas is, there's pretty much two ways everybody cooks everything. Either they pound it out and they chicken fry it, or they bacon wrap it.
Right.
There's so many more ways and so many better ways, to cook it. I mean, I'm not knocking, chicken fried backstrap and cream gravy because it's absolutely delicious. But you can't have chicken fried deer and, bacon jalapeno wrapped everything, with cream cheese for every single meal. There's a whole slew of cookbooks that are dedicated, to, just cooking wild game. Hank Shaw's Duck Goose, for anybody who's into waterfowl and, has even the slightest, touch of ability to cook, is, that's a go-to for me anytime I'm, wanting to do something a little bit different. I have my probably 10 or 15 duck recipes that I go to. And, teal season, I'll definitely make, bacon wrapped jalapeno, teal poppers, and they're delicious. And I'll take, a whole teal breast and do a bacon weave on it. And, it's delicious. The biggest thing I will say about wild game cooking, with the exception of pork and mountain lion and any other critter where trichinosis is an issue.
Yes.
Medium rare at the most.
Absolutely.
Or else you're going to get that nasty liver, like bad liver taste.
Yeah.
Or you're going to get that shoe leather, kind of what people call that gamey flavor.
Right.
And shoe leather where it just chews and chews and chews. If you cook it to medium rare, to rare, I like most of mine actually a little closer to rare than medium rare.
Right.
On my wild game. But I mean, if you shoot a mallard or a gadwall or even a spoonie, people always dogging on old spoonie and say, oh, he's a trash duck, he's no good to eat. And if you take that breast out fresh, skin off, and take it, put it in some ice water for just long enough. We're not talking overnight. We're talking, an hour, just enough to let some of that blood out.
Sure.
And then pull it out, salt, pepper it on a screaming hot grill. about, depending on the size of your breast, anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes aside.
Yeah.
And right before you put them on, brush them with a little olive oil or even vegetable oil. Season them up with your favorite steak seasoning, and like I said, 2 to 5 minutes aside, and it eats like a steak. I've had people that like swear they hate duck. They're like, duck's awful, tastes like bad liver, and I'm like, no, you just never had it cooked right. They're like,
Right.
nah, all ducks taste like trash. I'm like, no, they don't. Trust me, just try this, and they're amazed. And another thing people typically do, and this has been something that I've known a couple guys that are, that shoot way more ducks than me. Me out there, beating the bushes on public land and only getting to hunt weekends. Over the course of a season, I may harvest anywhere between, a few dozen to maybe on a good year, a couple hundred ducks.
Right.
Well, not a couple hundred, maybe 100, 110. If I hunt a lot and hunt in good spots where I can shoot a bunch of limits, over the course of a season and, hunt all my vacation. I think my best season ever was 108 ducks.
Wow, that's a lot of birds. Wow.
But, when you start getting that many ducks, and is what you can actually do, and I know Belleville Meat Market will do this, you can actually save your breasts for the entire season, take them, put them in freezer bags, and then take you up, 10 pounds of duck meat and actually have sausage made out of them.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Or you can do like I do and actually, make your own sausage. It's surprisingly affordable to make your own sausage and jerky. I make a good amount of duck jerky.
Mm-hmm.
Trevor this year, he actually took a hooded merganser and made jerky out of it. He was like, "It's good."
I'll never forget the time I tried sheep jerky. What do you call it? Texas doll jerky, and I still can't get that taste out of my mouth. But DB Wild Game Processing and Taxidermy, my friends that own that, I rolled through there the other day, and they had a Rambouillet ram that they made jerky, and it tastes surprisingly good. It tasted like beef jerky, or it tasted like turkey jerky, or something like that. But it did not have that awful mutton taste. I don't know what I think it's the seasoning they use, and they clean the meat real good and everything like that. I was not so careful with mine. They cut it into little strips, and you can make jerky out of just about everything. Is my point, I guess, to your point.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and even to do it at home, the biggest thing with jerky is making sure you clean all the fat and all the silver skin off.
Right.
And then, get your jerky mix and your cure and just, read the instructions, follow your instructions on it. And then you can go to, my dehydrator actually came from Big Lots for $20, and it's genuine. Yep. It's a genuine Ronco Ron Papil, dehydrator.
Love that guy. Set it and forget it.
Exactly. And I mean, it's got either 6 or 8 trays with it. And, whenever I'm doing a large batch of jerky, I can do about 4 pounds of meat with the trays, because I actually bought some extra trays. And you just kind of stack them up, and then you take like the bottom 2 or 3 trays, move them to the top every about 4 hours, and then you kind of go to bed. You wake up in the morning, and you'll smell it when you come into your kitchen. It smells kind of like sausage cooking, and you go in there and you've got a whole tray full of jerky. And you may have to take your top couple trays and move them down to the bottom again for another couple hours to finish, getting them the way that you like them. And maybe the stuff on the bottom will be like that, kind of crispy hard jerky, but.
Right.
Once you figure out your time frame on that and how you slice it. But the trick I've kind of learned is I went to Harbor Freight and bought one of those $50, $60 cheap meat grinders.
Yeah, sure.
And I'll freeze my meat, and I'll take that cheap meat grinder, and that way you get a consistent slice, so all your meat's the same thickness.
Sure.
And it makes your finished product a lot more uniform.
So you're like using a jerky shooter in that case when you're grinding it up, correct?
Yeah, okay. I have a jerky gun too, and that's another good way to do it, is to take it and run it through a meat grinder once, twice, 3 times. So like you want it fine for that jerky gun, and then you can just make you like the Jack Link stick style jerky with that, and it's extremely good. I've done it with beef, I've done it with deer, I've done it with ducks. And it all turns out good. It's just a matter about finding the brand of cure and spice you like, and then just kind of sticking with that. And then you can always tweak the base recipe by adding like red pepper flakes or cayenne or teriyaki or any other flavor you want to just change the flavor profile of that one particular mix. Because the one thing I found is a lot of the different jerky cures, even though they both say mesquite, they'll be totally different flavors when they're done.
Yeah. Even though the spice smells something like, whatever it is, it's going to taste a little bit different sometimes, right?
Yeah, exactly. It is just a different amounts of the white pepper, black pepper,
Sure.
garlic, onion, and how much liquid smoke they use, what kind of liquid smoke they're using in that, in that mix. But that's a kind of a go-to for me is making jerky whenever I have a excess of wild game and I don't know what to do with it. And everybody loves it. It's always a huge hit. I have people that refuse to eat anything that was walking around, even though they'll eat beef and chicken and stuff, but that comes from a cellophane package in the store. They don't correlate that with a living critter.
Yeah.
But it was alive just like everything else. And at the end of the day, I can take that deer jerky or that duck jerky or that goose jerky and put it out in front of them and they will tear down on it. And they know what it is, but they don't care. They're like, it's jerky. It's good. Give me some more.
How did your Sandhill Crane trip? Were you the one that took that, or was Trevor the one that took that?
Yes. Me and 5 guys went up to Lubbock, Texas, and we had a absolute ball shooting a 5-man limit of Sandhill Cranes up there in Lubbock with the guys from Red Eye Outfitters. It was a trip to remember and a trip we will be doing again this year.
Cool. That's good. Well, I just asked that because, they call Sandhill Crane ribeye in the sky, and you've mentioned that before on your podcast and on your in your social media post. What did you do with that? Did you cut that up in steaks, or how would you do that?
Okay, so is what I did. There's a whole variety of ways that we did the Sandhills. We breasted them out. We took the legs and thighs and did them like that. One of the guys took a whole bird and skinned it out like a kind of like a rotisserie chicken.
Sure.
And he did it that way, baked in the oven. The thing with Sandhill Crane is it's a bird that eats like a beef. You take my go-to way to eat Sandhill Crane is to take a whole breast, trim the silver skim. I like to trim it when it's slightly thawed. Mm-hmm. That way you don't waste any of the meat. You can get that silver skin. You can kind of fillet it like a fish and not just take the silver skin and take just like the thinnest layer of meat off with it.
Yeah, I've done that.
And then what I'll do is I'll take a Ziploc bag. I'll pour a little bit of olive oil in it. And then I'll shake some steak seasoning in it. And take it and let it kind of marinate in that for 30 minutes or so. Pull it out, throw it on the grill with just steak seasoning on it, and that's the go-to way to do it. And then my legs and thighs, I made kind of like pulled crane tacos in the crock pot because of all the connective tissue in there. I just took bones and all and threw them in the crock pot with a beef fajita seasoning.
Yeah.
And threw it in there with a little bit of beef stock and let them cook all day. And then pulled the bones, picked out all the tendons and stuff that were left. And that was a huge hit.
Wow. That's incredible. What a great idea. I mean, as far as the different ways to make a bird, if you will, a crane. They've got a lot more meat than your average bird, correct?
Oh yeah. I'd probably say the average crane breast is probably anywhere from, for a lesser, is probably 1.5 pounds to some of the graders that we killed down in South Texas. Mm-hmm. On my buddy's place down there. Those might have been up to like 2.5 pounds. I mean, they were.
That's great. Wow.
And then I still have a couple. I've kind of hoarded my crane. I still have a couple breasts left, and something I'm planning on doing here when I have some guests over. It's kind of, I break it out on special occasions. I'm planning on taking it and doing like steak fingers with it. I want to take it, do like steak fingers,
Yeah.
tenderize them, and then do them. Try chicken frying them.
Yeah, sure.
I haven't done that yet, but chicken frying everything is kind of the go-to here in Texas. So I'm gonna try some chicken fried crane.
Is that meat more like red or white or in
It is
between?
red. It is
Okay.
deep red. It is
like a
like I said.
ribeye
It's a
would be.
bird that eats like a beef. If I was
Yeah.
to hand you a piece of it,
You'd think it was
cooked,
beef.
not tell you what it was, you would look at it, you'd say, "Oh, this is beef." You would taste it, you'd go like, "Oh, this is prime rib."
It's really that good. Wow, that's
It
great.
is. It is. Out of everything I've ever eaten, beef, pork, wild, it's probably number one. I like Sandhill Crane better than I like Nilgai, better than I like Axis Deer. It's next level good. And like I said, I think one of the reasons I really like it is just the sheer novelty of it. It's a bird that eats like a beef. You would just never in 1,000 million years think that came from a bird. But if you stop and think about what the Sandhill Crane is it's kind of sort of like a flying cow. It doesn't eat aquatic vegetation as far as I know. It only eats grains and seeds and grass and things of that nature out in fields. It roosts in water, but its feet are not webbed.
Right.
So it'll go roost in shallow water at night, but during the day it feeds in the fields. Here by my house in Navasota for, I don't know, 4 months this winter, we probably had 400 to 500 cranes out in the cattle pasture every day. I'd watch them fly in there and then fly out in the evenings. And what's really bad is this is an area of Texas that has no sandhill crane season, so they were safe. They were very safe. But I was just like, if you guys would just quit tormenting me and flying over my house every day, I would greatly appreciate it.
I actually had a dream the other night that I was at somebody's house, just some friends, some acquaintances and stuff, and there were so many birds flying over. It was like what they have in Argentina. It was just like, and there were all kinds of different species of birds flying over. So you had your choice of duck or dove or whatever, and I was like, that's like a sportsman's paradise right there to have all those different. I don't know. I just thought that was funny.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You just brought up another bird, doves. Everybody I know in Texas, they make jalapeno poppers, and I'll make jalapeno poppers after opening weekend every time. But if you go to one of those, really good dove shoots to where you shoot 3 limits, that's 15 birds a day. That's 45 birds. You get 2 poppers out of a bird. That's a whole lot of poppers.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of different ways that you can cook dove that are surprisingly delicious. I can't remember what cookbook it is. I want to say it's Hank Shaw's. He'll actually whole pluck doves, roll them in cornmeal, and whole fry them.
Oh wow!
With the skin on, and that is an extremely good way to eat a dove. Another good way to do them is a way that Trevor actually taught me, and he'll take those Kraft cubes of cheese, and he'll take that dove and he'll put that cube of cheese on that dove, and then he'll take it and bacon wrap that and skewer the bacon around it with a toothpick, and then rather than grill it, he'll actually deep fry it.
Oh, there's an idea.
And those are really, really good. Texas Parks and Wildlife, their TV show a few years back did a thing on public land dove hunting, and they had a chef on down there, and he did a traditional kind of like chili mole dove recipe with Coke in it that he cooked there at the camp, and I've made that a couple of times for tacos, and it's spectacular.
I bet that's good with the Coca-Cola in there and everything. Yeah, wow. I'll have to get that recipe. That's really good. That sounds really good. I've never tried a mole sauce in my life, so that would be really cool.
Yeah, and then another thing that people don't think to do is kebabs. I've done kebabs a whole bunch of times with dove, because the vegetables will actually shield your dove from overcooking.
Right. I didn't even think about that. Like your red peppers or your onions or whatever will shield the bird, the bird
Mm-hmm.
breast or whatever. Right. Okay.
Yep. And then you can just take it in whatever your favorite, marinade is. Just throw them in there 30 minutes before you're ready to start cooking, and toss you a little bit of marinade on there, or just salt and pepper. I mean, most of your birds eat really good if you just handle them like a rare piece of beef.
Right.
It's kind of surprising, like, because I always thought dove were livery whenever I was growing up, and people would always have me over for dove, and it was always like, I get why these are good, because like every fifth one I have is delicious, but some of these, it tastes like bad liver. And then that's another thing a lot of guys don't do. This past season, we started hunting a lot with a buddy of ours that went up with us there on that sandhill crane hunt. And Evan, he took all the hearts, all the livers, the gizzards, and everything, and you can do that on all your ducks, all your geese, cranes, and your deer. Take your heart and your liver. It's kind of not done a lot here in Texas from what I've seen over the years, but deer liver and onions is spectacular.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of beef liver, but
Right.
venison liver is very good.
No, that's cool. It's just one of those things where I think that it's that it's like the Native Americans and other indigenous people before modern civilization. They'd use everything but the squeal. I mean, if you're talking about a hog, or everything but the bleat if it was the deer. And it's
Yep.
being resourceful with that animal and making good use of all the different parts. One of the things that I was reading the other day in Brian Slavin, he's our Texas Gourmet editor, and he has mesquite grilled dove wraps, and he was talking about how a lot of us, and I've been guilty of this, I don't know about you, we'll take our birds and just throw them in the back of our vest, and then 4 hours later we'll throw them in we'll pluck them and throw them in the cooler, and by then you wonder why your meat tastes all gamey and nasty. But his whole thing is, like you were saying, treat your meat or treat your birds like a rare piece of beef, or treat your game accordingly, to put them in a Ziploc bag and cool them off and throw them in the ice chest or whatever right away, so you have them when you're ready to clean them. It's just another good idea.
Yeah, that's something I've taken to doing in the past couple of years. Is I carry a little 6-pack cooler with me now whenever I go dove hunting.
Right.
With duck hunting, it's typically not that big of a deal because it's usually very cold.
Cold, right? Cold and wet. Yeah.
But that first weekend of September, it's usually still scorching hot, and most people here in Texas, they'll dove hunt the first weekend and the second weekend, and then it kind of falls off after that.
Right.
So take your little 6-pack cooler, get you a couple water bottles, freeze them solid, throw them down in the bottom of that little 6-pack cooler, and it'll, you can throw your bottles of water in there to keep them cool.
Sure.
And then as you're out there drinking your bottled water, and then rather than, throwing your birds in your vest, or, if you're not sitting right there by your cooler, if you've moved over to a different shade tree to go, but every time you get 3 or 4 birds, go walk over there and go throw your birds, in that cooler.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when you get back to the truck, transfer them, to I'll plug one of your sponsors here. Go throw it in your Frio ice chest.
There you go.
And and then another thing is to talk about another one of your sponsors is you always recommending those ice packs.
Arctic ice.
Arctic ice. Yeah. Rather than any of your game, be it ducks, deer, whatever, rather than keeping it in that watery slushy, either get you a product like Arctic ice, or freeze you 1 gallon water jugs.
Yep.
And put it in your cooler, and use that to keep your meat cool, rather than leaving your meat in a slushy, nasty, bloody thing. And on top of that, it'll keep your cooler from smelling like death if you forget to wash it out.
Well, and bacteria and that kind of stuff as well. And one of the products I picked up, I don't know if you saw it at the Houston Fishing Show. Did you go to the Houston Fishing Show? I forgot, Jeremy.
I did not.
Okay.
I had a million things going on at work that that week. I was
Okay.
planning on going Friday after work, and I wound up working till 9 o'clock.
I know
So
we were gonna connect there, but it's no big deal. But I ran into a product. What I was bringing that up for is I ran into a product that was called Cooler Fresh, and it's I believe Fishing Tackle Unlimited is carrying it now. If not, they've got a website, and I'll try to plug this in the show notes. But the product's called Cooler Fresh, and what it does is it's an enzyme that acts with like turning a bad smell into a good smell, and kind of working to keep your cooler fresh. Okay, instead of having it be stinky and everything else, because we've all had stinky coolers that we've left sit too long or whatever the case may be. And this just comes in a spray bottle. You spray it like you're painting, and there you go. It's the enzymes that kind of fight the bacteria and keep your stuff smelling good. So there's another plug for them. Plug them at the
yeah,
Houston Fishing Show too. But I'm just thinking ideas like that about keeping your stuff dry, keeping your stuff cool, keeping your cooler smelling good. Arctic Ice, the one thing I like about that, Jeremy, and I can tell you listen to the podcast a lot because you know all the people I've mentioned. It's one of those things that I think it's about keeping it dry and bacteria free as bacteria free as possible.
yeah, definitely. Like I said, this year after I managed to get a deer on public with my bow this year, which I was absolutely astounded to do.
Sure.
But it was right when that big storm came in November, and all the rain and everything, and
Yeah.
I had quartered it up, put it in the cooler. Since it was raining and the woman of the house does not appreciate me taking large hunks of deer meat and cutting it up in the kitchen.
Yeah, mine doesn't either.
Mama was not having it, so
No.
I decided I would take it over to Belleville Meat Market and just have it all processed into steaks and grind.
Okay.
Between that and the fact that it, rather than wasting more vacation time just sitting at home, I went ahead and went back to work. So I just left it in the cooler, took it over there the next day, got it all handled, came back home, got busy with work and stuff, and the next thing I know, I go to reload up, my quite expensive roto molded cooler in the back of my truck, and
Yes.
it did not smell very, very good, and it took me a fair amount of time to get that stink out of it. So yeah, definitely anything that you can do to avoid having that last 2 inches of water floating down there in the bottom, because I dumped it out and everything, I just did not dump it out all the way, I guess, and it
Let it
proceeded
air dry.
to ferment in
Yeah.
the sun
The
for
mildew and everything
about a
else.
week.
It's awful. Yeah, and that's why I recommend that product Cooler Fresh I'm trying to build a relationship with them, but they really have a really good idea as far as keeping your stuff clean and fresh. And what they do at the show was actually use a bottle of chum, and you get to smell it on a rag, a disposable paper towel, and they spray the stuff on it, and it works immediately. It's crazy, but just products like that we didn't have years ago when we had to use all the bleach and all that other stuff, all the harsh chemicals to get everything clean and smelling good again. It's nice to have something like that.
Oh yeah, I may have purchased their product. I don't remember what the name of the product was, but it was specifically for coolers to make them not stink anymore. So It probably was their product, and it worked surprisingly well.
Great idea as far as enzymes go. Yeah.
But as far as going to back to the ducks and geese and things of that nature, everyone just breasts out their birds, and it's a great way if you have a lot of birds and you're in a hurry to get them clean. But something I really recommend doing is, and it's something Trevor does a whole lot. It's something I'm kind of guilty of not doing that much, but is taking a whole duck and plucking it. A way that you can actually do it much faster and easier is if you take your duck and get you like the same kind of pot you'd boil a head in for a Euro mount or something along those lines, a big pot that you can put on an outside propane
pot
burner
or something like that. Right.
Fill it full of water and go over to the canning section in the supermarket. They have paraffin wax that they use for sealing jars, and take you 3 or 4 cubes of those and throw them into the boiling water till it all melts. And then take your duck and grab it by one of the legs and dip it down in there, or by one of the wings and dip it down in there and pull it out and let it set. And then I have a refrigerator that I picked up off of Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace for $50 in my garage that I use for nothing but aging I age my birds. I like to age my ducks a minimum of 3 days. For 3 to 7 days, it allows kind of the blood to kind of settle out of them. You always do them breast side up, so the if in the event that you did poke a hole in the guts with a BB, it's not running gut stuff into your breast meat.
Sure.
But then you age them for 3 to 7 days in a fridge, and then if you dip them in that paraffin wax, you can pull that paraffin wax and it just peels all the feathers off. It'll look like a plucked chicken. There
just peel off the wax and the feathers come off. Okay.
Yep.
There's an idea.
And then you can. It works a heck of a lot better than scalding them and sitting there. Your neighbors will appreciate it a lot more, so you don't have a gazillion feathers all over your backyard,
all over the place.
Your neighbor's backyard.
Like a cloud of feathers. That's funny. I didn't even think about it. Nobody's ever brought that up to me as far as a way you can clean a duck like that or clean a bird like that. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. And then is what I like to do with a whole plucked duck is. You familiar with spatchcocking?
Yes, I've heard of it. I have not tried it before, but I know the method. Yes. Yeah.
So is what you do is you take you a good heavy duty pair of kitchen shears. I have a pair of Pfister ones, and you just cut down the backbone and you cut the backbone out of it, and that gives you basically like when you order a chicken half.
Yeah, like butterflies
at the barbecue place.
Right.
So you can cut out the backbone and then you can cut the breast.
Sure.
Or then you can take it and cut it into quarters, and then. Hank Shaw in the Duck Duck Goose book has a spectacular like whole pan roasted duck with the skin on with the crispy skin.
Right.
It's better. It's a gourmet meal that you cook at home for a little bit of nothing, and it never ceases to impress people whenever you serve them. A gadwall or a mallard that you've done that way. It presents on the plate very beautifully, and it tastes spectacular.
Whoa, that's really cool.
Yeah, and that's just done in a cast iron skillet. You take it and you sear it and you pop it in it. I think it's 450 for like 10 or 15 minutes. It's not very long at all, and it comes out golden brown with crispy skin, and that fat renders in it. It's good.
That's cool. I want to switch gears real quick to big game because a lot of us this time of year are killing hogs. We killed one back in late March, and I wanted to talk as well about deer and that kind of stuff because we've eaten so much steak. I think we're out of deer steak, but fallow died in my exotic business the other day, and it broke his neck in a fence thing, and we basically harvested it. It was about a 10-month-old fallow deer, male, a buck. And you talk about some good meat when you get them young. I've heard fallow deer say that, they're kind of older, livery tasting deer, but this thing tasted better than whitetail. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean that goes back to I think to the way that you cook it and the way that you
feel.
Because I've had black buck, I've had fallow, I've had I have lots of friends who have a lot more money than I do and go on some really neat trips and and take some really neat animals, and they're always kind enough to bring me a few packages of meat, and I've had many of them say, man, this stuff isn't any good, and I'll take it and cook it, and to me meat's meat. Everyone says oh, the young ones eat better than the old ones. About the only thing that I can, and I can't even personally speak to this, but this is a few other guys I know that are excellent cooks, where they're kind of like, the one thing that you don't really want to jack with is a old ruddy mule deer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they say they taste kind of sagey, but even then, I think if you work with it right and cook it right, I think it's still very, very good. And if you process your own meat, the worst case scenario you wind up with is okay, you have a bunch of meat that doesn't taste great.
Right.
Well, now it's just time to break out the grinder and the sausage stuffer, and that's something I know a lot of guys do here in Texas, and no fault on them because I did it for a long time too. And this is what I thought you did. You took your deer, you took your back straps out, you took the rest of them, you like jalapeno cheese and spicy sausage. That's
right.
That's what deer meat was.
Yep.
And it's great. If I could shoot 3 deer a year, I guarantee you I would do that with one of them because I love deer sausage as much as the next guy.
Sure.
But, when it comes to big game is, everyone says, oh, well, it only cost me, 38 cents to harvest this deer. Well, not by the time you factor your hunting license, your gas, your travel, your time.
Yeah.
If you're on a lease, all that corn, the cost of the lease, everything else, that's some of the most expensive protein there is on the face of the planet.
Right.
And, personally, like I said, I love deer sausage, but I want to taste, that meat, not the pork and the jalapeno and the cheese and everything they add to the sausage.
Right. You want to taste the essence of the deer, basically. Yeah.
Exactly. I'd rather, venison has a very, unique taste to it that I like better than beef. I'd rather, if I had a choice between a prime ribeye or, a front shoulder of deer, I'd probably take the front shoulder of deer every day. But I know where you were kind of going with this is like different ways to do deer besides, like you said, like I told you at the beginning, everybody just chicken fries it or grills it. There's a million different ways. Especially with kind of some of the newer ways of cooking that are kind of filtering down into the hunting and outdoor scapes.
Like sous vide and that kind of stuff, all the different...
sous vide, the pellet smokers.
Right, pellet grills,
a pellet smoker, like a Traeger or a Yoder or a Green Mountain or a Camp Chef or the Outdoor Gourmet from Academy. Right. All those electric pellet smoker things, those are great because they have such great temperature controls, and most of them have the built-in probes to where, you can get your meat to that perfect, rare state, pull it off and let it rest and come up to medium rare, or you can do the reverse sear on them where you take them, you smoke them, and then you either, I know on the Traegers and the Camp Chefs, they have where you can turn them to like 550 degrees. So you pull your meat off, you crank it up, and then you sear it off to caramelize the outside of the meat, but keep that rare center. Or you can just use a cast iron skillet on your stovetop, get it super hot, and just sear it off.
Well, this goes back to what you were talking about before, is how to eat wild game. And I mean, I know a lot of people that are hunters and fishermen and whatnot that listen to this will agree that medium rare is, but it took my wife a while to get on that train. The way that my dad learned how to eat medium rare is my grandfather, this is before my time, back in the 70s, my grandfather came over, my maternal grandfather came over, his father-in-law, and it was 6 o'clock, he was ready to eat, and the meat wasn't done yet, and so they ate it, and it was medium rare, and he said it didn't need any steak sauce. I mean, it was just the best tasting steak he'd ever had because he didn't overcook it. And he taught me how to eat it. But the thing is, it's the essence of the animal at that point of medium rare. You're tasting a little bit of the blood. You're tasting some of the little rawness in the meat. I mean, you're tasting... for me, there's no better way to connect with what you've killed. To be a little graphic. I mean, it's just so I've got my wife, her and I have it down to a science of whether we grill it outside or whether we do it inside to get it perfectly cooked every time. And I mean, if it's a thin, skinny steak or a thick cut steak, whatever the case may be, or backstrap or a round steak, I mean, oh my gosh.
Yeah, the best way, like if you want a consistent cook every single time, like I said, you're either going to go with a pellet smoker with a probe.
Right.
Or as you cook it on the grill, take you a thermometer with a probe on it, and pull it off when it gets to, 115, 120, 125 if you like it more to the well done side. But like I said, and then the other thing is with wild game is definitely let it rest.
Yeah.
But the best thing I found, especially for cooking steaks of different thicknesses and stuff, is I've just recently started getting into this, is a sous vide. You take them, you vacuum seal it, and you plop it in your water bath with your sous vide set to 120, and you go to work, and it cooks all day long.
Wow!
And then when you come home, and then it won't ever go past that 120, and so it just stays at a constant 120 degrees, and it will turn a cheap steak into a steak that eats like butter, and that's a beef steak. And it'll do the same thing with your tougher cuts of venison. A buddy of mine got a 50, 60 pounds of buffalo meat. And the
Okay.
first time we cooked it, it was to say that it was hard to chew would be an understatement. And this was from an old bull buffalo. I mean, and it was tough, and it was not the best cuts of meat. And the guy just had too much, not enough in his freezer. Gave it to him. He gave me some of it, and finally, the way that we found to make it tender was to sous vide it, to keep
Okay.
it medium rare. Because I mean, you could have done it in a crock pot, and with like a brown gravy or something like that, and made like beef tips and rice with it. But I wanted to eat a buffalo steak, and the first time I did it, I did everything just right, but it was extremely chewy. I mean, it was hard to cut with a knife.
That's pretty chewy. Yeah, I'd say
It
so.
was it was tough. It was very
Yeah.
tough, and I was like, I've had the bison they sell at Whole Foods before. I've had the bison from the store. I'm like, it's not supposed to be like this. I get it that this was a quasi wild, bison, and I get that it was a very old, and it wasn't raised, to be meat, and it was basically it was a cull bull
Right.
from a
Hunting
high
ranch or
fence
whatever.
place
Yeah. Right.
that the guy got a steal a price on because it started killing younger bulls and was no longer viable.
Hmm.
So they was basically like, hey, the first person with X amount of dollars who can come out here and shoot this thing, come shoot it like today. And
I mean,
so he got a
that's.
steal of a deal on it, and he wound up with close to 800 pounds of meat, I think he said.
Woo, Lord, that's a lot of meat. I know buffaloes pack it on for sure. So, I mean, I've been around, obviously in the hunting range work that I do and stuff. I've been around that stuff, and it's pretty thick. And I was just gonna say, we just did a wild boar, and a lot of people say that wild hogs that are boars, don't taste good because they have too much testosterone or hormones in them that make them taste rank and everything like that. This boar we killed hardly had that smell at all, and he's probably 225 pounds, probably 2.5 inch tusks. And I told the story on the show before, but basically he quartered it up, used a little bit of vinegar and lemon juice, which is an old trick I learned when I first started hog hunting, and let it sit for about 2 or 3 days. Cut it up, cut up the shoulders for grind, and then the my wife calls them mastodon legs, the rear quarters. I smoked both of them for my birthday. And let me tell you, that was really good pork. I mean, that was really, really high quality meat. We chopped up the remainder after we pulled them off the grill and shredded out the pork. We basically poured in barbecue sauce, poured in the past sausage that we had left over, threw that in the food processor, chopped it up finely, mixed it with barbecue sauce, and you got pulled pork barbecue sandwiches for the rest of creation. There's a lot of stuff you can do with things that a lot of people, like you were saying about the ruddy mule deer. I mean, just about everything I've caught or cooked or killed, it's been something that I've made something presentable out of it. It may not be the best that there ever was, but if you prepare it right, it all comes in that. And obviously, how you care for it in the field is important too.
Yeah, I'm with you on the wild hogs. I've never had a bad, be it sow, boar, it doesn't matter. I've never had a bad one. The thing is, I think so many people with a hog, especially here in Texas, they're so dismissive of it. They'll shoot it, and maybe there's a whole bunch of them. They go chase another one, for a while, or shoot 10 of them, and they go pick out. All right, well, this one here's a good eater size. I've always heard,
Right.
don't eat anything over 100 pounds.
Yeah, that's not true.
I've never had a wild hog that if you shoot it, you kill it, you go out there, you gut it, you skin it, and you get it on ice, that it's not better than pork you buy in the store.
No.
It doesn't matter whether it's a boar, a sow, bar pig, whatever. It doesn't matter. It has more flavor, the meat's richer, and it just tastes better.
Yeah.
I mean, there's guys out there selling pasture-raised pork, which is basically a wild hog that they supplement, with some feed, but it basically goes out there and makes a living in a field, and they're selling that stuff for $30 a pound. And here in
Right.
Texas, if you've got a deer lease that has them, you can go out there and get you one most weekends if you put in a little time and effort. Or, a lot of farmers and ranchers, maybe you pay them a little bit of trespass fee, or maybe, you just tell them, hey, I'm a good, responsible hunter, and I see the hogs are tearing up your field out there. You mind if I come sit out here, a couple evenings during the week and, shoot a couple of them, get them off your field.
Right.
You can maybe get you some permission. There's plenty of public land around Texas too that's loaded up with hogs. And, for your $48 annual hunting permit, you can go out there and, get you some good protein for a little bit of nothing.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And that's the thing. There's nothing, there's so many misconceptions about this. And obviously with wild pork, you want to cook it to avoid trichinosis, brucellosis, and stuff like that all the way. But there's so much misconception that, I don't like that because I tried it once and it was no good. And I'm like, you probably tried it when somebody didn't really know how they were doing it right. And it takes a lot of trial and error to get where you and I are when it comes to that stuff. And I just encourage people, do what works, but, listen to us and read your cookbooks and stuff like that. But don't give up on something just because somebody has told you that it's bad. I mean, try it for yourself and see if that's something that works for you. The first pig I ever killed in 2005 was a big old 300-pound pig, and it smelled awful. And that was around the time Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Rita came through. And they, I had the whole family over to cook pig. You didn't even taste it. Everybody thought it was commercial pork. Didn't even taste like it was because I prepared it right,
Exactly. If you take care of your meat, it tastes fine. Another, game animal here in Texas that people typically don't eat is, the collared peccary, the javelina.
Yeah, javelina.
Evan this year went down to his place he hunts down in South Texas. He shot a pig, a javelina, and they bought a pork loin, and they took the back strap of each one of them,
right?
And he took them all with him on ice up to Nebraska up on a trip he was on, and they seasoned them all up and threw them on the smoker and cooked them all the exact same way, and they cooked it up to 155, where you kill trichinosis, and then they proceeded to indulge in some adult libations and have a good time, and they pulled them off. And they did the taster's choice challenge, and they could tell the domestic pork loin because it was bigger, but the javelina and the pork, they both said tasted better than the domestic pork, and they had forgotten which one was which was the pig and which was the javelina.
Yeah, I mean, it's just all in the way that, and a lot of people don't like javelina because they stink, when you have to gut them. I mean, especially if you gut shoot one of them, or God forbid you gut shoot any animal. But I mean, it's not. But I mean, I think in a way, as far as the spiritual connection that we have to hunting, we owe it to that animal. I don't typically kill unless I eat. And I think that there's that kind of connection to nature in our souls and what we do, and you believe that, I know, with what you do with some of the organizations you're with and stuff, that it's more than just, it's about conservation, it's about preserving our for the generation, but it's also about connecting with the source of that meat. And I think that's more of a spiritual look at. But listen, dude, I eat, wild game for the same reason that vegetarians don't eat meat, because I don't really agree with what goes on with the slaughterhouses and stuff like that. And that may sound, kind of frou-frou tree hugging stuff, but at the same time, I want to know where my meat's coming, and the essence of me connecting with that animal that I harvested is to eat it, And I mean, that's the thing a lot of anti-hunters don't understand, but I wish they would. So...
Well, I feel like a lot of that's coming around. I feel like there's a lot of new people getting into hunting that are in it just for the food.
Just for the meat, yeah. I know. I've seen that too.
And I'm all for that. I'm, at the end of the day, I eat wild game as often as I eat, store-bought meat. And I'd eat more if I was a more successful hunter. But with kids and a family and a job and everything else, I don't get to hunt as many days as I would like.
Right.
But I definitely try to utilize as much of every animal I shoot as I can.
Sure.
And the other thing is like, okay, you said that, there's a lot of things that people say, oh, you can't eat that. And you're right. For a long time, there were a whole lot of things that, like, I just wouldn't shoot. I wouldn't shoot mergansers for a long time because I heard they were no good. And then I wouldn't shoot coots, really, because I heard they were no good. Well, I was having a real slow day duck hunting one time, and I had probably 20 dozen coots keep swimming through my decoys, swimming through my decoys, swimming through my decoys. And finally, I just had enough of it. I was like, you know what? I'm taking something home today. And I wound up, probably shooting 7, 8 coots. And, I know a lot of boys from Louisiana. They really love eating that coot. They like getting that big old gizzard out of them and frying them up. I'm not much on gizzards, but they got a fair amount of breast meat on them. And they smelt pretty fishy, and they did not smell like the cleanest duck in the world. And I was like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do with these things. So I took all those breasts and I threw them in the crock pot. And I took a big bottle of barbecue sauce and poured it all over them and just set them in the crock pot on low all day. And I came back and I shredded that meat up. And it, in all honesty, like, it was a pulled meat sandwich. You couldn't tell if it was pork or if it was beef or if it was chicken or what it was, but it was a pulled meat sandwich, and it was good. And ever since that time, I was like, if I ever have a day where a whole bunch of coots are swimming around in my decoys, they're probably going to have a bad day because it will definitely eat.
Yeah. No, there's one, Scott Lasayeth, or I forget what the guy's name is. I think it's Scott, the guy that does one of the cooking shows on the one of the outdoor TV shows. But he was in Louisiana, and he was saying, well, what about a coot? And he actually really made something good out of a coot, out of some coots that he shot. And it was kind of the Catch, Clean, Cook style, TV show of going out there and killing it and grilling it. And those shows are really starting to gain popularity. The whole culture towards clean eating, it's one of the things Chester Moore and I were just talking about the other day. Clean eating and eating organic and eating natural, and that soul connection with nature, which is more of a thing for me at least, is a lot more prevalent now than it used to be. And I think part of that's because of organizations like BHA that that really are big about conservation and about the essence of why we hunt, and not so much just about going out and killing the biggest and baddest and best thing. And I mean, that's the thing. I hunt for meat, dude. I'll just be straight up with you, man. And I fish for meat too. But I love it all. And I mean, we eat a lot of wild meat here. My wife, I've turned on to everything I bring in the house except for gar. That's about it, but she'll eat everything that I bring in here, because I've trained, not really trained her, but she's learned over the years how I make it, and we've kind of tweaked and modified our recipes. Like, we do venison enchiladas, and we use Velveeta cheese. That's one of our own little things because it's creamier and it melts better and stuff like that. We use bacon deer burger, and make venison enchiladas out of that at homemade. And we're gonna have those for Father's Day. That we just decided that the other day. That's hard to beat. I mean, something like that.
Yeah.
That's, oh my gosh.
Okay, well, here you go. Here's another. This is probably my son's favorite thing I make with venison.
Okay.
It's the easiest thing in the world. My mom used to make it with beef when I was a kid growing up, and it's a great little 30-minute meal that's super easy. And I grind all my own deer meat, with the exception of this year. But I'll just take a pound of ground venison. I like a little finer grind for this, but you can use a chili grind for it too. And you brown it up in a skillet. It's beef stroganoff, but with venison.
I love it.
But it's the easiest thing in the world to make because it's literally a 30-minute meal tops. And so you take it, you brown it up in a skillet. What's nice about venison is you don't have to drain off all the fat because there's no fat in the venison. You take it, you brown it. I like to season it up with a little salt, pepper, garlic, onion powder, and cook it up with that on it. And then I'll take a can of cream of mushroom soup, dump it in there, about half a can of milk, pour it in there, let it simmer for about 10, 15 minutes all together while the egg noodles are cooking. Do the egg noodles, pop it in, spoon that on it, and like my son probably asked me twice a week to make that. And it's quick, it's simple, it's delicious. It's not probably the greatest thing in the world for you with that cream of mushroom soup in it, but there's at least one day a week where when I get home where I'm just like, I'm tired, I don't really feel like cooking, and I mean it probably takes me 15 minutes to make it. It takes me longer to go to the freezer, pull the meat out, and thaw it out enough to get it out of the the package
Right.
to start cooking it.
Right. No, and so there are a lot of simple things. I mean, a lot of things. It goes without saying that you can substitute a lot of things that are that call for beef for venison. You just have to watch your ratio when it comes to fat, that you don't overcook it. Number one, but number two, that you have enough. That it's going to be a lean meat, and you're expecting that. Instead of beef being a little more fattier, but. There's just so many different ways you can do this. So many great cookbooks on the market right now. I'll probably put a couple of the ones that I have, and then the one that you suggested in the show notes as well, so people can check out. But I mean, there's just a lot of different. I'll put Amazon links, even better. I basically, I just wanted to have. This show's been on my heart lately because I've been like. What's the essence of why we hunt and fish all the time? What is all this leading up to? And I think this is one of the things that kind of ties it all together, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. The last kind of thing that I know most people don't think about when it comes to big game meat is take your shanks.
Mm-hmm.
Steven Rinella from MeatEater, he's real big on shanks. And he has an ossobuco recipe that you can get online.
Ossobuco, yeah.
And I can't tell you how many, deer piles I've seen where all the shanks are left in there. Take those shanks, get you a little saw and saw them up and make you ossobuco, and you will look like a 5-star gourmet chef, and everyone will love them. It's so good.
Yeah, I've got to try that one time. That's awesome.
And then definitely, as far as cookbooks go, the ones that I go to for my wild game is Steven Rinella's new MeatEater cookbook that he came out with around Christmas. There's that one. There is the 3 Hank Shaw books, the Duck Duck Goose, the Buck Buck Moose, and the Cotton Quail Cotton. It's Squirrel Quail Cottontail, I think is what it's called.
I love those names. And that's hilarious.
And that's his small game book. And if you can't figure out, like, Buck Moose is all your
big
all
game.
your hooved animals,
yeah.
Your cervids, your deer, your elk, your moose, things like that. Duck Goose is your birds,
right.
And then your pheasant quail cottontail is your that's what it is, pheasant quail cottontail.
Okay.
And that's all your other small game. And there's a whole bunch of just delicious things, especially in the small game world. There's a million different ways that you can cook all that stuff. Squirrel and dumplings. You can do hot wings with squirrels or rabbits or anything like that. I mean, there's a million different ways to cook things besides just breading it in flour and throwing it in hot oil, which is a delicious way to eat things. But if you want to take it to the next level, that's definitely 4 books I would suggest to step your cooking game up. And then when you're really ready to step your game up to the next level is, try processing one of your own animals and try dry aging. Go find you a cheap fridge and hang you a quarter, a front quarter, in there for, 10 days, 14 days, and trim the rind off and just see what a difference it makes to your meat. I mean, you go buy you a 43 day aged ribeye at a steakhouse. That's $100 steak. You can do that in a fridge in your garage, with your venison, and it will take it to the next level.
Yeah. It's also about a healthier way to eat than just, simply throwing it in the oil or wrapping it in bacon. And there's nothing wrong with that, like you said, but I mean, it's also a cleaner way to eat your meat, that it comes to, something that's lean and something that's going to be a good source of protein, but it's not going to be all fatty and everything else like a lot of the commercial meat. And just like I said before, no GMOs, no hormones, that kind of stuff. I mean, grass-fed, corn-fed, just really, really good meal, you can make. And there's just so many things you can make for sides. I mean, the list just goes on forever. But I've been wanting to have a show like this on for a while, and it just kind of occurred to me you'd be one of the best people to ask, because you guys on your podcast have talked over the years about, cooking what you catch and cooking what you kill, and just having and just enjoying the outdoor lifestyle, which I've become more and more big about this on the show, because of the fact that it's kind of tying it all in together, as in why we do what we do. It's an essence of understanding the connection we have to nature, I guess, to be a little deep here for a minute.
Yeah, definitely. At the end of the day, it's great to bring home some meat you harvest from the field, be it a duck, a dove, whatever. But the real joy of it is taking that protein that you go out, you work hard for, you harvest, you come home, you lovingly prepare it. I mean, you take your time with it. You
Yes.
make sure that it's dead on perfect, and then you have friends or family over, and you're all sitting around the backyard around the grill enjoying a cold beverage, and you get to relive your hunt and tell your
Yes.
story about where this meat came from, how it came to go from a deer walking around in a field to placing that perfect shot on it, or setting up your decoys, and how the ducks came and worked in, and how the sunrise was that morning, and how that buck was out there tending a doe, and you get to tell your story, and you get to kind of relive your hunt again, and take people that may not hunt or fish or be a part of the outdoors and bring them into it with the food.
Right.
It's really kind of brings it full circle. And at the end of the day, if you got to put a lot of seasons and spice on it to make it the way you like it, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But I feel that there's something very kind of like special about just fire, salt, pepper, and just cooking it that way. And try something that way that you've never done before, and you'd be surprised if you don't overcook it and you take your time with it, just how good just salt and pepper and some fire is.
No, it's good. And I mean, like I said, I think the biggest enjoyment I get out of the outdoor lifestyle and hunting and fishing is sharing it with all the non-hunters in my life. That's what I wanted to do for my 40th birthday a couple of weeks ago. I just wanted to have, there are a couple of things I did, but I just wanted to have everybody over to try the pig that Jackson, got with the dogs, and and just experience how much fun that is to feed everybody from something you harvested, and I think that's something that kind of drives home. And I'd love to have you back on, Jeremy, for a fishing show for talking about catch and clean and cook, wild fish, because I've got a good redfish on a half shell recipe. I know we didn't get into all that this time, but I mean, there's just so much other stuff that we can talk about as far as preparing fish, for sure, from just deep frying or grilling
there's,
it.
there's a million different ways to eat fish besides, rolling in some Louisiana fish fry and
Right,
throwing
throw it
some
in the pan.
But
Yeah, that's a good way
that
too,
may
but
be my favorite.
Yeah, I know. That might be mine too. But I've got a awesome redfish on the half shell recipe I want to share with you too. So maybe we'll connect on another show.
I got a pretty good one too. If
I
I
know
have
you
a
do. I know.
successful,
And I wanted to try yours, but yeah, I tried my father-in-law's instead. But yeah, I'm going to try yours next. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was about to say if on some of these coastal trips I've got come planned, we'll have to get together up there in the hill country, and I'll bring some redfish on the half shell, and we can have a grill off.
A grill off. We can see which ones they like the best, right? Invite a bunch of people over. I love it. Grill off, and then we could be like going head to head like they do in the barbecue competitions, and sweating and wiping the sweat off our brow. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not going to be that passionate about it. I'm not going to lie.
I'm just
going to sit around and eat a bunch of good food and tell a bunch of big stories.
Drink a couple of cold ones. Yeah, that's right. So anyway, but anything for people to contact you, Jeremy, to find you on social media before we close out?
Yeah, definitely. You can keep up with everything that I have going on our Facebook and Instagram. It's Cast Blast Grill Chill, and then the podcast will be rolling out again here real soon. We've been kind of taking a hiatus since hunting season, trying to get some things lined up. We've added a new person to the team, Evan Porterfield. He's a member of BHA, along with me and Trevor, and we're working on getting a bunch of really good guests lined up. We're trying to get a whole bunch of them stacked in the tank and getting ready to roll out with a whole new season of content, living the outdoors, lifestyle that we like to live, and giving you tips and tricks to get it done.
You guys have really inspired me in a lot of ways to really, sit back a little bit more and chill out and just enjoy what is the outdoor lifestyle. And just the thing I appreciate about y'all and your show, it's so conversational, it's so storytelling, it's experiencing the good, bad, and the ugly of public land, and just, conservation. And y'all have inspired me a lot with your show. And I want to thank you again, Jeremy, for listening to mine. So it means a lot.
I greatly appreciate it. And anybody, Memorial Day weekend, if you're in the San Antonio area, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers is going to be hosting the Full Draw Film Tour down there at Leading Edge Archery. You guys should go out there and check it out. And for the folks in the Houston area, the Full Draw Film Tour will be hosted by Backcountry Hunters and Anglers there too at Texas Archery. So if you'd like to go out there and check it out, there'll be good times, good folks, and some really awesome hunting films.
You said June 22nd for that other one, right?
Yes, sir. June 22nd at 6:30 p.m.
All right, cool. I just want to make sure we mention the date for the Houston one, since we have a lot of listeners in Houston. So I'll try to post links to those in the show notes too, so y'all can check that out. And then we have an Airgun show coming up. So yeah, there's all kinds of fun stuff I'll post in the show notes as far as activities and stuff that are coming up. So, but yeah, thanks a lot for being on, Jeremy. I really appreciate you.
Anytime, Dustin. I appreciate it.
And there he goes, Mr. Jeremy Beaston. All those cookbooks that we talked about in this podcast, I have got the MeatEater Fish and Game Cookbook, the Buck Moose Cookbook, the Duck Goose, and the Pheasant Quail Cottontail Cookbook. All three of those. I've got the links on to where you can buy those from Amazon, get them shipped straight to your house on 2-day Prime shipping. I've got the links of all three of those on the website. They're affiliate links. I'll just be honest with you. They're affiliate links to our account, and that'll help support the show if you buy the books that way. But even if you don't, that's cool. I just wanted to make those available to you as resources. I've got a bad habit of having books that I don't necessarily read all the time, but I busted out this one that I looked at. My wife bought me Project Smoke a while back. She's a foodie and a food blogger. I'll put her blog in the show notes too, Seraphina's Kitchen. She's got a lot of the wild game stuff that I've done over the years on her blog. But the America's Best Barbecue Recipes and Techniques from Prize-Winning Ribs, Wings, Brisket, and More. It's a hardcover. By Arthur Aguirre. That's one of the books that kind of inspires me to do what I do in the backyard as far as cooking and smoking and grilling meat, and it's just a lot of fun. The other one that I wanted to mention too is Project Smoke by Steven Raichlen. I believe it's Raichlen. Steven Raichlen, Project Smoke. I listen to his show all the time on PBS or the KLRU, whatever the local public television network that we have here. He's been on TV for a number of years, and he just is a really cool TV show that it really talks about, smoking things and grilling things and doing things in the outdoors, in the outdoor kitchen lifestyle kind of thing. And I mean, that's just really, really fun and cool. So anyway, it is late at night when I'm recording this, the week before this podcast release, so I'm a little loopy. I apologize for that. Love you guys so much for tuning in. Again, thank you guys so much for checking out our podcast. Please tell a friend if you like what you hear. Please leave us a 5-star rating. Also, if you've not done so already, subscribe. Texas Fish and Game has a newsletter at fishgame.com you can sign up for. You can get news every 3 times a week, every day just about, because we have email blast, we have sponsored digital programs that we're doing, and we've got the regular Tuesday, Tactical and Practical Tuesday, Wednesday, Wednesday, geez, it's getting late. Wednesday is the Wildlife Wednesday, Thursday is the Texas State of the Outdoor Nation, and those are all free to you, get delivered in your inbox, kind of like getting a mini magazine. You got stories you can read, blog posts on different subjects of self-defense, you've got things on conservation, you've got things on hunting, you've got things on fishing, all kinds of different things. You can also order our shirts and stuff like that at fishgame.com. I'm wearing a fishing shirt right now. I just love this stuff. And also we have going on right now in the middle of this podcast broadcast, we are launching the program that we have through PowerPole, which is called Fishing Strategies You Can Trust. Now, to find that program, all you have to do is go to our website, fishgame.com, and at the time that this airs, you'll be able to see our slider up at the top that has our current issue, which is May right now, that's rotating in the actual kind of a rotation of slides. And one of the slides is Fishing Strategies You Can Trust, sponsored by PowerPole. And PowerPole's logo for this is, our slogan for this is We Build Trust. They're really big about customer care. And I've got articles that I've written as part of that and that Chester's written as part of that as far as fishing techniques, new ideas, great opportunities for you to get out there and use your power pole if you have one on your boat, or look if you're considering buying a power pole or a Talon. It'll give you some options of why power pole is a really good really good option for you. So nothing against talent. It's just what a lot of people have said about one over the other. It's just really good. They sponsored this program for us, and I want to definitely give them a shout out and thank them for being a supporter of Texas Fishing Game Magazine, especially in the digital format. We're really growing a lot in digital, guys, and you'll see a lot more sponsors and stuff come on this podcast and stuff. And I just really look forward to what the future looks like with this show, and I really look forward to just having you guys on for the ride, man. This is just 4 years ago this month, guys. 4 years ago. Started this show just as a way to get it out there, and I had like 3 downloads the first episode, but and it's kind of a celebration this month. It really is, because it's something that I love to be able to talk to you guys about things that are relevant to your life. I don't talk about giant yachts and sport fishing, for giant, marlin and stuff like that. Stuff that you may never do. This is all about things that are relevant to you. These are all things that are engaging to you, and they're all things that are meaningful and significant to you. I hope, that's always my goal with this show, is things that anybody can get out and do and do well at and have fun at and just enjoy the outdoors, get to know God better, get to know Jesus better, get to know themselves better, get to know their family better. All the things that the outdoor therapy allows us to do. There's just so many, many, many blessings that I just want to bestow upon you with this show. And I believe we're here for 2 reasons, guys. Y'all heard me say this in my other content. I believe that we are here to love and care about each other and to acquire knowledge. And in that acquiring knowledge, we learn to love and care about each other. And one of the things that we're here to acquire knowledge on is to love and care about each other. So I love and care about each one of you guys. Podcasting is such an intimate format because, I'm literally in your head. You're literally listening to this in your earphones or your iPad or your iPhone or your Android or your Samsung or your LG or whatever phone, or on a computer or whatever, but I'm literally in your head right now, and that's kind of a cool thing. I was reading a podcasting book about this the other day, and it really just kind of drove home that how special this relationship is that I have with you guys, the listener. The fact that y'all invite me into your earbuds or your phone speaker or whatever, however you listen, every 2 weeks, and the fact that a lot of you guys, that are Jeremy being one of those guys, that are kind of hardcore listeners, really appreciate that. So anyway, I'm off on a tangent again. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for checking out our show. Again, please tell a friend. And as always, thank you for watching, reading, and listening to our stuff. Have an awesome day in the outdoors. We'll see you next time.